This is Kite Cutter TV with another presentation. We gotta talk about this. Okay, guys, ICE arrests 104,000 illegal aliens in 2020, including 675 MS-13 gang members. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency arrested nearly 104,000 illegal aliens this year, including hundreds of MS-13 gang members who often arrive through the Unaccompanied Alien Children program. Between October 1st, 2019 and September 30, 2020, ICE agents arrested 103,603 illegal aliens living in the United States, 90% of which had criminal convictions or pending criminal charges against them. ICE placed detainers on 122,233 illegal aliens this year, which are requests by agents to local law enforcement agencies to hold an illegal alien in their custody until the suspect can be turned over to ICE for arrest and deportation. Sanctuary cities, counties, and states refuse to comply with detainers and instead free illegal aliens back into U.S. communities. We got a lot more immigration topics coming up. We got Mark Morgan speaking about Joe Biden's policies and how his immigration policies will basically start more migrant caravans and have another explosion at the U.S. Mexico border like it was in 2018. Check this out.
Meanwhile, Mark Morgan, the acting commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, is issuing a stark warning against Joe Biden's plan to reverse President Trump's immigration policies. Biden, who has said he would have opened borders for the first 100 days he's in office, as well as reverse deals Trump made with the Triangle countries regarding immigration policy, also promised to stop construction on the U.S. Mexico border wall, saying it's all a waste of taxpayer money. Commissioner Morgan says those moves would be disastrous for the country.
It's not just about stopping construction of the border wall. It's about providing amnesty to millions of people. It's about getting rid of the CDC's Title 42 order, the Migrant Protection Protocol, which ended catch and release. It's about giving them free health care. It could go on and on. That is not an immigration strategy. Mark my words, that is an open border strategy. And the cartels and human smugglers already see that loud and clear, and they're already fueling the perceptions that with the change of administration, our borders are going to be wide open, and it is absolutely increasing illegal migration right today.
More than 74,000 pounds of cocaine was found floating in the water off the Florida Keys. Florida authorities recovered the drugs after a local fisherman who was about 15 miles offshore reported that he found more than a dozen packages just floating in the water. The drugs have an estimated street value of around $850,000. Nearly 150 pounds of marijuana was found near Key West in August, and last year, around 33 pounds of cocaine was found along the Palm Coast. And they're calling it a hard narcotics double play as CBP officers seized $1.1 million in heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine in back-to-back busts at the Eagle Pass port of entry in Texas. The first one happened on the Camino Real International Bridge, where they discovered nearly 29 pounds of heroin and nearly 11 pounds of cocaine hidden inside of a Chevy Silverado. The second seizure happened the next day when officers at the same bridge found more than 22 pounds of crystal meth hidden inside an SUV. U.S. Border Patrol agents seized $3 million worth of drugs near the border in Arizona. Check this out. Those are the backpacks that were filled with the drugs you can see on your screen, carried by 3 illegal immigrants who were walking north from the international border about a half-mile west of the Loopville port of entry. Agents found about 14 pounds of fentanyl and 55 pounds of meth. They said that the man who was carrying the packs now faces federal charges for drug smuggling. The suspect and drugs were turned over to agents with Homeland Security.
Congressman, that was a very vivid display of how little is being spent. The crisis at the border was I think one of the main reasons Donald Trump was elected in 2016 to the presidency. Have the Democrats don't seem to have learned that lesson, have they?
No, they really haven't, David. They don't want to fund what's necessary on the border. They're going to stop building the fence. They're going to put a moratorium on repatriation. They're going to focus on turning the Border Patrol agents into kind of a search and rescue mission instead of a border security mission. And it's reflected in where they're spending their money. They're spending their money on detention facilities and different kinds of training for the CBP. But they're not giving the CBP what it needs, the Customs Border Patrol. And they're not going to fund ICE the way ICE needs to be funded.
Well, it's more they wants to end ICE detention. She has mentioned that before. She hasn't gone as quite as far as some of her colleagues in calling for an end to ICE, but she is for an end to ICE detention. She wants to replace it with something called, quote, community-based alternatives. Do you know what that is?
No one seems to know what community-based alternatives is, but one thing is, it's going to look a lot like the sanctuary city movement, where they release criminal illegal aliens back into the community. That's what we think it means. But you're right. She's willing to defund ICE. Others want to basically eliminate ICE. But at the same time, David, we're seeing the start of another surge. We had more high numbers in November. We're going to have probably close to 100,000 apprehensions in December. And we've got caravans forming. You've got cartels advertising again. And Biden promising amnesty and to support sanctuary cities. And everything that they're talking about provides the
why should that surprise anybody? I mean, you increase the incentives for coming. Remember when every single candidate raised their hands when they said, would you be for free medical care for illegal aliens? Every Democrat running for president, I think there were about 15, raised their hands at that point, or at least 10 at that session. So you increase the incentives for coming, you decrease the disincentives for being here illegally, and surprise, surprise, you have the caravans again. Why should anybody be surprised?
You can't be surprised. It's almost a carrot and stick approach that they're taking to bring people into the country illegally. And that, that doesn't even include the people, the million plus people that come in legally every year, even now. And don't forget too, David, we've had an increase in drug trafficking. We've had an increase of human smuggling going on. And also Mexico hasn't brought the virus under control yet either. So, and it's not just from Mexico. We can't forget that. We get people from all over the world crossing that border.
Okay, guys, this next story, we got undocumented immigrants fear could stop them from getting the coronavirus vaccination. As the vaccine distribution ramps up across the U.S., there's still a lot of hesitancy about it, especially in our undocumented immigrant communities. So basically, these people are illegal immigrants in the country, and they're coming over from countries that still have the coronavirus explosion happening right now. And they're coming over, and basically they're saying that they don't want to take the vaccination because they don't want their information to be handed over to ICE. Check this out.
As vaccine distribution ramps up, there are still some people unsure about getting the shot, especially in our undocumented immigrant communities. NBC7's Amber Frias spoke with a Linda Vista man who says he won't be getting the vaccine for many reasons, but primarily because he's afraid his information could end up in the hands of immigration authorities. Amber?
The man I spoke to asked to remain anonymous due to his immigration status, but he did share with me that he is convinced he will not take the vaccine and that his family and the majority of his community also feels the same way. As the administration continues to roll out plans on how the vaccine will be distributed to the general public, advocates are urging the government to consider prioritizing our undeserved communities.
They don't have the luxury of staying home. They have to work every single day.
Roberto Alcántar with the Chicano Federation says the organization has been in constant communication with the public health department, trying to advocate for more resources. Many undocumented immigrants live in the communities that have been hit the hardest by the virus, and many have a higher risk of exposure because they are essential workers.
No me la voy a poner.
This essential worker, who chose to remain anonymous due to his immigration status, says he is not planning on getting the vaccine. He lives in Linda Vista. According to public health data, his neighborhood is near the top 25% of highest COVID-19 cases by zip code.
Este sistema político que tenemos no es de fiar.
Still, he says he is against the vaccine because he doesn't trust his personal information will remain anonymous.
Vamos a hacer una remembranza sobre cuando empezaron a dar las licencias a personas indocumentadas.
He points out that his distrust comes from news reports last year that ICE had access to AB 60 license information, which allow undocumented immigrants to drive legally in California.
De la comunidad con las que yo convivo aquí en el medio donde nosotros vivimos, sí desconfiamos.
And he says mostly everyone in his community feels the same way. Alcántar understands his concerns and is working hard to reassure undocumented immigrants their legal status will not be shared.
We've launched a new campaign to aimed at Spanish speakers. It's called Con Orgullo, which means with pride. And it's about reminding folks that you have to get tested for your community with pride. You have to keep, yourself socially distanced with pride.
Undocumented immigrants have not been specified in the vaccine rollout plan. San Diego County says they are awaiting guidance from the state. When that time comes, Alcantar hopes these communities opt for the vaccine. Amber Frias, NBC7.
Okay, this next story involves the NAACP, so I just want to give a brief background of the history of the organization and how it was founded. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is a civil rights organization in the United States, formed in 1909 as an interracial endeavor to advance justice for African Americans. I want to stress that it was created for African Americans, but now all of a sudden in this day and age, the NAACP is being used to advance illegal immigration. Check this out. The NAACP calls on North Carolina lawmakers to okay in-state tuition for undocumented college students. So basically now the NAACP, which was founded in 1909 for the advancement for African Americans, is now being used in 2020 for the advancement of illegal immigrants. Check this out.
For the 14th straight year, the NAACP is asking state legislators to approve in-state tuition for undocumented students. Their No Room at the End event is in reference to the story of Mary and Joseph being pointed to a manger just before the birth of Jesus. CBS 17 digital reporter Judith Reitana explains.
There was no room for them at the end back then, and there's still no room for our brown brothers and sisters now.
Around the country, only a handful of states allow undocumented students to pay in-state tuition or to qualify for financial aid. Higher education activists believe access to affordable in-state tuition is crucial.
As someone who's also undocumented, telling you, because this is personal, this is my livelihood. And we are here to say no more.
A study from the New American Economy shows North Carolina is home to 11,000 undocumented college students. Among all undocumented students, it says close to half were brought to the U.S. before the age of 12.
Local community colleges get thousands of dollars from us when we pay out-of-state tuition. A lot of us can do it. I can't.
We're talking about young people who have to live their life under attack.
Eleazar Posada with El Centro Hispano says the state needs more overall diversity in higher education.
Not just in-state tuition, as already mentioned, but equitable access to education for all of our undocumented and documented students of any race or color.
The NAACP says they are ready to pound the pavement in 2021 and once again ask legislators to reconsider college tuition rules. But getting the General Assembly to change the law in 2021 may be harder than ever, with state colleges losing millions of dollars due to the pandemic.
Let us open up the inn this Christmas holiday.
North Carolina is in the top 10 states with the largest amount of undocumented high school graduates. Where exactly they fall on that list is online in my story at CBS17.com. I'm digital reporter Judith Reitana, CBS 17 News.
Now, the federal government is accepting first-time applications for the DACA program. That is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Now, on your sides, Rogelio Mares shares how this could affect students who hope to attend the University of Arizona.
We have close to 40 DACA students that have been identified.
Ivy Banks is the U of A's Associate Vice Provost for Diversity and Inclusion. She describes the experience for students at the university who have been in the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, program.
Most of the experiences that you see that are different are around financial aid and resources as it relates to paying for education.
Paying for school pales in comparison to being outed. Banks says while there are 40 DACA students at the university, there could be more who haven't declared themselves.
What we see is that our students that are in DACA status living lives where they have to sometimes be invisible in very visible spaces.
That invisible space loomed larger, Banks says.
Specifically in the prior administration, when there was the removal of DACA status and the threat of removal of DACA status.
A memorandum was issued by the Department of Homeland Security earlier this year. It sought to restrict the program, but a decision by a federal judge earlier this month vacated that memo. Despite the good news for DACA students, Banks says it hasn't made the experience any easier.
So we have looked to see how we can increase mental health resources and support for our DACA students.
So the University of Arizona is investing in just that at its Immigrant Student Resource Center.
We're hiring 4 mental health counselors that will be embedded in our centers.
Hope and optimism, words Banks uses to describe how students are looking at a change in America after November's election. A change that she says allows students to focus on being students.
Thinking about the academics and also thinking about the career and how do we have all of these opportunities available for our students.
But the DACA program was a policy established by one department in the federal government. Banks says until that policy is law, students at the U of A and everywhere may continue to retain only a cautious optimism.
So it's really important that as we move forward that we have some more certainty, and that's what we're hoping that this new administration will bring.
Rogelio Mates, KGUN 9, on your side.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, God bless. Peace.